Today's podcast short is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to walk and talk, and we're going to start with 5D. For an actual 5D person, the reading material and or the different types of pieces of information that they will have gathered throughout the years, let me show you. We have polysecure, since a 5D person is a secure attachment, unconditionally loving person. Existential physics, these are new, but this one's going to be awesome for those of you who have clairs and oversoul and stuff like that. Here's one with psychology, and Peter Levine actually suggested it. I can't wait. This one's really great, the social construction of reality. So anyone should read this. These are not topics that might be of interest to you, but as you can see, look, crystals, tarot. So in fact, if anybody believes in evil or the devil, you might not want to be tuning in here. Or if you are someone who believes that, this comes from the Magician TV show, talent doesn't come from magic, it comes from pain. Elliot Waugh. So a person who will believe that human suffering is what brings you to be in a 5D state hasn't actually achieved their oneness consciousness yet, which is, by the way, you being in synchrony with your own masculine, feminine. So it's an actual secure attachment person, which is why the polysecure is very important to note today, especially because we're moving into our 5DC relationships from the Enlightenment Soul Age group. And in addition, we are having some new episodes for the subscription-based model content. So let me fill you in. The title is The Inspiring Human Potential, Inner Growth, 5DC, Enlightenment, Functional Adult Love Language. And again, don't tune in if you, one, don't love life and humanity, because it won't be for you. If you do believe in evil or the devil, it means you don't know enough about the updated trauma and or somatics informed actual academic, like people that have done research years after years, so you don't know about attachment wounds and how any of this works, which is why it's not for you. Also, if you are an ego-sensitive or basically emotionally sensitive person, which means you're triggered by people who have different opinions about social, political, economical topics, don't tune in. And yes, if you do actually love life and are an adult, a secure attachment adult, it means you don't think that one person or one group or any type of thought process is gonna, you just aren't triggered emotionally by these things. So it's a place where we get to talk about the actual, again, functional adult love language. So I try to make sure you don't waste your time, because I don't think it's nice to waste people's time, since we only have those lovely 24 hours a day. When you live in the now, this is why it's very straightforward. And polysecure, let me talk about that one. There are those of you who are in a 5D, and so because you are your own agent, and that comes from a place of unconditional love, you look to the past, your entire oversoul, the whole twin flames, soulmates, all of it. You actually know exactly where you're at and why. Like, you don't have questions, and even as you experienced all of your awakening, you didn't have questions, you had answers. Because the person who does have that type of relationship with the energetic sphere, like for me, it's like you intuitively just kept getting nudges and nudges. And the reality is, when we had the big, whatever that date was, I don't want to get too specific on our short time, but there are, for the Lightworker's Life and the Oversoul episodes. So these are all subscription-based model content pieces, by the way. But there were specific timelines where I, in fact, was able to, once that second or the majority of whatever happened, I was like, okay. I was beginning to connect the dots to the actual unresolved trauma and attachment wounds. So people who are on the bandwagon of trending with their, 4D stuff, basically, they're not tuning in to things that talk about being a person. And when I say this, what I mean is they're actually not looking to humanity and the evolution that we are on as something positive. They don't see the unconditional love. They see the dismantling of, for example, non-monogamy, right? The dismantling of monogamy. So I've seen a lot of people talking about cheating and this and this and that. So people who are actually insulting each other. But I haven't heard about people talking about how amazing it is if you're a secure attachment person with clairs particularly to be able and share with people from a place of love the fact that you unconditionally love independently from another individual's behavior, which is where the adaptive child behavior comes into the mix. So 5D person understands that humanity with human suffering is actually a dysregulated and or modulated embodied self. I just didn't have the words to say it. Now I do. The 5D person who is in secure attachment has a restorative embodied self, which is why they're like this. One, and we don't get upset when our loved ones make their choices based on their own either attachment wounds, which FYI equals that karma that the 4D love to talk about, or their whole soul contracts and how things end. They love to put endings to things because there's not processing the actual emotion that arises from the right brain. There is allowing the emotion to lead the way, which they actually think is not true, because even the thought, they're not even expanding the way they're evaluating, because instead of having a reflective conversation, so inner growth mindset, what they have is an inner outer critic, which is part of that shame cycle. And then there are mechanisms to deny the emotions, which can be distractions. They don't have to be actual compulsive behaviors, but some actually do, which is sad. And they move eventually away. And they repeat their human suffering again and again and again. So the actual 5D person who is here like I loves humanity to death. And we actually see the beauty in the updated good mental health information and the good people who are talking about how functional adult language does matter. And here's where, because we have a secure attachment body, that's the, again, polysecure aspect that I keep bringing up, there's a way for us to always be open to have a space for those who want to expand consciousness. And it's a very important time right now. We have this lovely 4/4 portal, and there are a group of people. In fact, this is where you'll hear from one of the channeled guidances coming up either tomorrow or maybe today about that. I'm picking up on the collective and those who are actually open to being vulnerable with each other to move into more of secure attachment relationships. And so while those who are 3D, 4D consider person who is poly to be a lot of names that I won't use right now, the individual who actually reads up and knows about unconditional love will not be judgmental, because we don't live in the medieval times. And I do know some people do, but that's not 5D. While the 4D talks about energy vampires and keeps cutting out people that actually could use corrective experiences as they could, because here's where, if you're cutting someone out, you haven't actually taken the time to be in compassion towards yourself and the other. You know, and one of the quotes that I love, it's Daniel Siegel, who I'm learning about the mind from. You should definitely learn about the mind. It's really great. Have a bunch of different aspects that we discuss in our courses, in our podcast episodes. Some of them will be kind of courses, but and future courses, of course. But when he says forgiveness is giving up all hope of the past ever changing, and the 5D person, that is a wholeness of themselves. This is where we actually are always at zero. It's most amazing for me to find out how to share with you from the human perspective, because the spiritual, which is metaphysics, esotericism, and all 4D talk, and the spirituality, which is consciousness and a guru and, you know, all of the other, like, let's go out and into the middle of the mountains. When you look at it from somatics, sensory motor, and the mind, and how everything works, wow. It's like you can become your actual enlightenment soul age person without having to wait till the next lifetime. Go figure. I didn't have the actual in-depth neuroscience, and it's because it wasn't out yet. So we got to talk about different things, and of course I share with you stories from my own personal life and being able to be in that secure attachment consistently and moving into it. And then we get to decide on other questions you may have in the future. So this is for the new episodes. And for these ones, of course, you can always ask me if you want me to look at any topics for you. If you have curiosities, we have a Q&A. And the part about those who are still in the mix, they're still getting the opportunity to expand, as always, because love is always in the air. And that's what the essence of life is.